folks, we have finally gotten our first ever look at the upcoming Street Fighter 6. So Capcom put a countdown on their website that coincided with the end of the Capcom Pro Tour. And, I think a lot of people knew that we were going to get some kind of Street Fighter 6 information at the end of it. And this is what we got. A 30-second teaser trailer that doesn't really show anything. It shows Ryu and Luke and a logo. It looks kind of like the S that you would draw on like your Trapper Keeper in middle school. Anyone know what I'm talking about? But that's all we got. But I'm going to do my best to analyze and break down this trailer with what we know about the game so far and what I think this might be saying about Street Fighter 6. By the way, there was also one other announcement in case you missed it. It's the Capcom 35th Anniversary Collection, which, it looks pretty hype. They've got some deep cuts in here, like Red Earth, Pocket Fighter, or Gem Fighter, as it was called in Japan, I think. All with rollback netcode, and all with training mode as well. So, it's like, if you're willing to dip into the legally gray area of emulation, we kind of already had all these games with rollback, but having them all in one place that's more accessible and having hopefully a good training mode with like recording and stuff, that'll be good. So I'll probably pick this up and try it out. Definitely there are some hype games in here that a lot of us I don't think have played too much. Cyberbots, we did a Cyberbots tournament on my channel, and that game was sick. So having it in this collection will probably be pretty good. So that was the other announcement, but let's break down and analyze the big announcement, which was obviously Street Fighter 6. Okay, so first of all, let's talk a little bit about the graphics. I've seen a lot of people speculating that this would be on Capcom's Resident Evil engine, which they are using for all kinds of their big budget AAA games. And I think it makes sense, and I think when you kind of see the character animations especially, the weird curling feet, when you see sort of the way the characters look at each other, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it kind of looks like those games to a degree. So that's probably what we can expect from that on the visual sense. I think the graphics, they look pretty good. I'm not crazy about this whole fighting game trend of like every character has to be completely ripped, like 280 pounds buffed out. I don't know about that. I think back in the day when they looked more like anime and cartoony, that looked pretty great, but we got buff Dad Ryu with the beard and everything. Presumably that's going to be his default costume. Which it was not in Street Fighter 5. I felt like Beard Ryu should have been his default, but they kind of chickened out and made him look like he does in every other game. And then we have Luke. So they had announced, obviously, when Luke was revealed for Street Fighter 5, they had said that Luke is going to play a major role in the upcoming Street Fighter 6. So that definitely seems to be the case. Something that immediately comes to mind to me is like, is Luke going to kind of be like the new protagonist? Like Ryu, traditionally the protagonist of the Street Fighter games, but in Street Fighter 3, they introduced Alex, and he was kind of meant to be like the newcomer taking over the title. So I think that there's a potential that that's going to be the case with Luke, that he might sort of be headlining the story. And then this is something interesting. So you can see right here, first of all, look at the Joker smile. It looks like the Joker from Injustice 2, but if we look at the After Effects here, so he's got these red and blue sort of like paint splashes. I think this is a lot like what Street Fighter 5 trailers and like intro videos use this element a lot. Like, for example, here in the Street Fighter 5 cinematic opening, we've got all these like streaky paint lines. That and the contrasting colors, the orange and blue, that's what that mostly reminds me of. Whereas when we see Ryu, it happens so fast it's easy to miss, but here he's got these sort of like Jackson Pollock paint splatters, which we saw a lot in Street Fighter 4. You can see this effect is kind of all over the place. When they do these attacks, it's just like splattering ink everywhere, and that was also a common theme with the focus attacks in the game. They had that sort of ink splatter effect. So this might be an extremely five-head theory. I first saw this on Damascus's Twitter. The idea that, if Luke is representing the fighting style of Street Fighter V. Ryu could be representing this fighting style of Street Fighter IV. Maybe there's going to be some kind of selectable system where you can choose, like maybe you can get focus attacks if you pick the SF4 groove, or you can get V-trigger if you pick the SF5 groove. I don't know, something like that. That might be a bit of a stretch. I think at least thematically, they are trying to tell us something in terms of like Luke represents the future. He represents youth and vibrance and new things. He's obviously a lot younger looking than Ryu, and he's got this much brighter in your face style with this art. Whereas Ryu is like the old guard. He's old school. He's even black and white here representing, you know, the past. So Luke is kind of pushing us into the future of Street Fighter, whereas Ryu is representing the past of Street Fighter. At least that's what I take from the trailer. Am I overanalyzing this? Am I going too far? Probably, but they didn't give us much to work with, man. This is literally all they showed was about 30 seconds of Ryu and Luke looking at each other, and then this SF6 logo. So, yeah, that's all we got. They have said that there will be more information in summer. Perhaps after EVO, which is in August, we might get another trailer or something. The question, of course, that is on everyone's mind is, when are we going to actually get to play this game? When's it even going to come out? My prediction, if we do the math, Street Fighter IV was released on console in February of 2009. Street Fighter V was released on console in February of 2016, almost exactly 7 years later. And what's almost exactly 7 years after Street Fighter V's release date? It's February 2023. So that's my early prediction. I think probably Q1 of 2023 is when we can expect the game to come out, assuming that, you know, the pandemic and other things don't negatively further affect their development. One other interesting thing about the game is Yusuke Hashimoto announced on Twitter he's pleased to share that he's working on Street Fighter VI as one of the game designers. So if you don't know who this is, Hashimoto-san worked at Capcom for quite a long time. He left Capcom to go to Platinum Games, where he was the producer on Bayonetta. He was the director on Bayonetta 2. And then in 2019, he left Platinum Games, and it looks like he's back at Capcom working on Street Fighter 6. So I think it's best not to overanalyze these things and be like, oh, the Bayonetta director's working on Street Fighter 6. I bet it's going to have guns and juggling or whatever. Like, it's usually not like that. Like, for example, Dimps made Street Fighter 4 and they worked on Street Fighter 5, and they also made Sonic Unleashed. So like, Street Fighter doesn't play like Sonic Unleashed. So it's best not to overanalyze these things, but definitely this is someone with a good pedigree. So I think it should be, you know, sort of a hopeful, positive thing that someone like this is working on Street Fighter 6. So pretty hype. So I think that's pretty much all we got to talk about right now. You know, I'm definitely hoping that Street Fighter 6 can have a better launch than Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 5, I think, a lot of people ended up liking the game once it got some DLC, once a lot of the problems got fixed, but it definitely had a very, very rough launch with like no story mode, 8 frames of input delay offline. Online really did not work very well. So hopefully Street Fighter 6, we can have a better launch and we can get the hype back into the Street Fighter franchise with this new game. So that's what I'm hoping for, guys. But with that, let me know what you think down in the comments. You hyped for the game? What did you think about the teaser? And that's about it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.